Signs that someone close to you secretly hates you. Have you ever been around someone who speaks kindly, smiles warmly, and acts like a friend, yet something in your gut tells you otherwise? It's an uneasy feeling, an instinct that whispers that their friendliness might be a mask hiding something darker beneath. Carl Jung, one of the most influential minds in psychology, introduced the concept of the shadow, the hidden part of ourselves that we suppress, yet which often emerges in how we treat others. When someone harbors resentment, envy, or even hatred, they rarely display it outright. Instead, their emotions seep through in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. The signs are always there. Small gestures, carefully worded comments, and fleeting expressions betray what they truly feel. Today, we will uncover 8 unmistakable signs that reveal whether someone close to you secretly resents you, even if they go to great lengths to hide it. Pay close attention because sign number 8 is the most insidious of them all. It can change the way you see people you once trusted. Contempt hidden behind sarcasm. 1. The jokes that sting. Lena always considered herself someone with a sharp sense of humor. She loved a good laugh, enjoyed playful banter, and could dish it out just as well as she could take it. That's why, for a long time, she didn't see the problem. It started small, harmless. Really, Chris, her coworker, was the kind of person who always had a quip ready. He was known for his dry wit, and Lena thought it was refreshing at first. "Wow, you actually showed up on time today." Chris smirked one morning. Lena chuckled, shaking her head. Yeah, miracles happen." But the comments kept coming. "Did you actually do your own work today? Or did you just charm someone else into doing it? You wearing that to the meeting? Bold choice. That's so cute, watching you try to explain analytics like you really get it." Lena told herself Chris was just teasing. She had grown up in a family where sarcasm was a second language. So she brushed it off. But something about his words always left her feeling off. 2. Laughing through gritted teeth. It wasn't until a night out with friends that it really hit her. She and a few colleagues had gone to a local bar after work. And Chris was in his usual form, laughing, throwing out jabs, and making sure his voice was always the loudest in the room. Lena was telling a story about a project she'd managed successfully, feeling proud of how she had handled a difficult client. She was mid-sentence when Chris interrupted with a grin. Wait, you? Handling a tough client? Oh God, let me guess. You just batted your eyelashes and hoped for the best?" The group laughed, some uncomfortably, some genuinely entertained. Lena forced a smile. "Actually, I used my brain. You should try it sometime." Chris held his hands up in mock surrender. "Whoa, someone sensitive. It was just a joke." The moment passed, but something in Lena shifted. For the rest of the night, she felt his words sitting heavily in her chest. Was she overreacting? 3. The line between humor and contempt. Over the following weeks, she started noticing things she had ignored before. Chris didn't joke like that with everyone. Sure, he made snide comments here and there, but the ones aimed at her had a different edge to them. They weren't just teasing, they were personal. He'd pick at her habits, her intelligence, even the way she spoke in meetings. And every time she called him out, he'd roll his eyes. "You seriously can't take a joke?" It was the same pattern. He would say something cruel. Lena would try to push back, and he would flip it around, making her seem like the overly sensitive one. It was exhausting. One afternoon, she caught herself hesitating before making a suggestion in a team meeting, knowing Chris would have a remark ready. That's when she knew it wasn't just humor. It was something else. Contempt. 4. The psychology of sarcasm as a weapon. Lena had always been fascinated by psychology, and that night, she found herself searching online. Why do some people use sarcasm to belittle others? She came across Carl Jung's theory of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress or deny, often projecting onto others. Was that what Chris was doing? Was his sarcasm less about her and more about something unresolved in himself? She started paying closer attention. Chris would sneer at her work ethic, but she noticed that he frequently missed deadlines himself. He mocked her intelligence, yet he often relied on her to explain things to him. He rolled his eyes at her ambition, but whenever she got praised by their boss, his jaw tightened. The realization made her stomach twist. He wasn't just teasing, he was lashing out, hiding his resentment behind humor. 5. Confronting the hidden contempt. The next time Chris made one of his usual remarks, Lena was ready. They were in the break room, chatting with a few coworkers. Chris leaned back in his chair, smirking. Lena's probably got another one of her brilliant ideas up her sleeve. Can't wait for this one. A few people chuckled uncomfortably. Lena felt the heat rise in her chest, but she didn't let it show. She smiled, tilting her head slightly. You always have something to say about me. Chris, what's that about? Chris blinked, caught off guard. What? It's just a joke. Relax. Is it? She kept her tone light, but steady. Because it's funny. You only ever joke like this with me. Makes me wonder why. Silence. Chris opened his mouth, but for once, nothing came out. One of their coworkers cleared her throat. She's got a point. The shift in the room was subtle, but undeniable. Chris muttered something about needing coffee and left. And just like that, Lena felt something lift off her shoulders. 6. The aftermath. Chris never fully stopped, but he pulled back after that. His comments became less sharp, less frequent, and when he did slip back into old habits, Lena no longer let them slide, because she finally saw them for what they were. Sarcasm wasn't always just sarcasm. And sometimes, the things people laugh about the most? They're the things they can't admit about themselves. Subtle sabotage. 1. The friend who always forgets. Mara considered Rachel her best friend. They had known each other since college, had navigated first jobs together, and even shared an apartment for a couple of years. But lately, something felt off. It started with small things. Rachel forgetting to pass along invitations to networking events or not mentioning that their mutual friend had landed a great job opportunity. I thought I told you, Rachel would say with a shrug when Mara found out later. Must have slipped my mind. Mara brushed it off at first. Everyone forgets things. But then, the mistakes started to cost her. 2. The pattern emerges. Mara had been preparing for months for a major presentation at work, one that could secure her a promotion. Rachel, always in the loop, had even given her a few pointers. The morning of the presentation, Mara was scrambling to find the final report, one Rachel had promised to print for her. As a favor. Oh my God, Rachel gasped when Mara called in a panic. I totally forgot. I swear, I had it on my to-do list. Mara had to rush to get a new copy, barely making it in time. The stress showed in her delivery, and she knew it had cost her. Rachel apologized profusely, offering to buy Mara dinner to make up for it. But then it happened again. When Mara asked why she wasn't considered for a key project at work, her manager said, "Oh, Rachel told me you weren't interested." Mara's stomach dropped. I never said that. Rachel blinked at her innocently later that day. I must have misunderstood. The pieces clicked together in Mara's mind. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't miscommunication. This was sabotage. 3. The hidden motivation. Rachel had always been supportive, hadn't she? But as Mara thought back, she realized that Rachel only cheered her on when it didn't interfere with Rachel's own success. Carl Jung's theory of projection came to mind. People who are insecure about their own failures sometimes unconsciously undermine others, ensuring they never surpass them. Mara started watching Rachel more closely. The slip-ups weren't random. They always happened at key moments, right before an opportunity. Right before Mara was about to shine. She decided to test her theory. One evening, she casually mentioned that she was applying for a prestigious leadership program. Rachel smiled, but something flickered behind her eyes. A week later, Mara received an email saying she had missed an important submission deadline, one Rachel had promised to remind her about. That was all the confirmation she needed. 4. Cutting the strings. Mara confronted Rachel. You keep forgetting things, but only when it affects me. You always have the information when it benefits you. Rachel's face darkened. Are you accusing me of something? Mara didn't back down. I don't think you're doing it on purpose. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Rachel's defensiveness spoke volumes. Mara made a decision that night. She stopped relying on Rachel, stopped sharing her plans, and took control of her own success. And just as she suspected, Rachel drifted away, because without the ability to hold Mara back, she had no interest in staying close. The silent competition. 1. The friend who never claps for you. Elliot had always thought of Ryan as a close friend. They had been through thick and thin, college, breakups, first jobs. But one thing always nagged at Elliot. Ryan never seemed happy for him. Whenever Elliot shared a success story, Ryan had a way of brushing it aside. "I just got promoted," Elliot had told him once. Beaming. Ryan's response? "Nice. Hey, did I tell you about the time I almost got promoted twice in 1 year?" It happened every time. Elliot could win an award, achieve a milestone, or get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Ryan always had a way of shifting the attention back to himself. 2. The downplay game. Elliot tried to ignore it, but the pattern became impossible to overlook. One day, after months of grueling work, Elliot finished his first novel. It was a huge accomplishment, something he had dreamed about for years. He excitedly told Ryan, expecting encouragement. Instead, Ryan smirked. "Self-publishing, right? Yeah, I mean, that's cool, but it's not like you got a real publishing deal." Elliot's excitement dimmed. "Writing a book is still a big deal," he said. Ryan shrugged. "I mean, anyone can do it if they have time." The words stung. Elliot had spent late nights and early mornings writing that book. He had poured his heart into it. But Ryan dismissed it as if it were nothing. And that's when it clicked. Ryan wasn't just uninterested in Elliot's success. He saw it as a threat. 3. The psychology of unspoken rivalry. Jung's theory of projection suggested that people often resent in others what they struggle to develop in themselves. Elliot realized that Ryan had always dreamed of writing, too, but he never followed through. So, Elliot's success wasn't just a neutral event. It was a mirror reflecting Ryan's own inaction, his own failures. Ryan didn't hate Elliot's success. He hated how it made him feel about himself. 4. Breaking the pattern. Elliot decided to test something. At their next meetup, he shared news about an even bigger accomplishment. His book was getting serious attention. Ryan's reaction? He scoffed. "You know, there are a lot of books out there. Doesn't mean it's special." Elliot just smiled. He finally saw the truth. Ryan wasn't a friend who couldn't celebrate with him. Ryan was a competitor who didn't want to lose. That night, Elliot made a quiet decision. He would stop expecting Ryan to cheer for him. Because some people, no matter how close they seem, will never clap when you win. Fake support. 1. The hollow cheers. Emma had always been the kind of person who celebrated her friends' victories. Whether it was a promotion, a new relationship, or even just a personal milestone, she believed in uplifting those around her. But lately, she had noticed something strange. Whenever she shared good news, her best friend, Tessa, seemed indifferent. "Hey, I finally got the job offer." Emma had beamed, expecting excitement. Tessa's reaction? A tight-lipped smile. "Oh, nice. That's cool." No follow-up questions, no enthusiasm, just a hollow acknowledgement before she changed the subject. At first, Emma told herself she was overthinking it, but the pattern continued. 2. Missing in action. When Emma needed support, Tessa was never there. After a terrible breakup, Emma had called, needing a friend. Tessa didn't answer. No call back, no text. But 2 days later, she posted a picture at brunch with mutual friends, ones who had answered when Emma reached out. When Emma confronted her about it, Tessa simply said, "I didn't know you needed me that bad. You should have said something." The excuse didn't sit right. Emma realized something that stung. Tessa was only around when it was convenient, when there was something in it for her. But when Emma had real needs, Tessa vanished. 3. The psychology of fake support. Jung described ego dissociation as emotional detachment, where people disengage from others when faced with their own insecurities. Emma realized that Tessa didn't hate her, she resented her. Every success Emma had was a reminder of Tessa's own stagnation. It wasn't that Tessa wanted her to fail, but she didn't want her to succeed too much either. That was the difference between a real friend and a fake supporter. Real friends cheer because they want to see you win. Fake supporters only tolerate your success when it doesn't outshine their own. Control disguised as caring. 1. The friend who knows best. Ava had always trusted her cousin, Michelle. She was older, more experienced, and always gave advice, sometimes without being asked. "Don't wear that. It makes you look unprofessional. You shouldn't move to another city. You'll be all alone. Are you sure you want that job? I just don't want you to regret it." At first, Ava saw it as love. Michelle was just looking out for her, right? But over time, the concern started to feel more like a cage. 2. The unseen chains. Whenever Ava tried making her own decisions, Michelle found a way to intervene. When Ava started dating someone new, Michelle insisted, "I just have to meet him first. I don't want you to get hurt." When Ava applied for a new job, Michelle told her, "I don't think that's a good idea. You should stay where it's safe." Ava realized something chilling. Every major decision she had ever made had first gone through Michelle's approval. And if she ever disagreed, Michelle would make her feel guilty. "I just want what's best for you." Ava had always trusted Michelle's advice. But now, it didn't feel like advice. It felt like control. 3. The hidden fear behind control. Jung suggested that people who struggle with inner chaos seek control over others to compensate for their own instability. Ava realized that Michelle wasn't really trying to protect her. She was trying to keep her dependent. Because if Ava learned to think for herself, Michelle would lose her power. That was the moment Ava decided she didn't need Michelle's permission to live her life. Backstabbing through gossip. 1. The whispers in the room. Ethan had never cared much for office politics. He focused on his work, kept his head down, and trusted that hard work would speak for itself. But lately, something felt off. Colleagues who used to greet him warmly now avoided eye contact. Conversations would go quiet when he entered the break room. Even his boss seemed colder than usual. It wasn't until a friend pulled him aside that he heard the truth. "Someone's been spreading rumors about you, Ethan." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Who?" His friend hesitated. "It's Daniel." Ethan blinked. Daniel? The guy he had mentored? The one he had helped land a promotion? 2. The poison of gossip. Ethan started paying attention. Sure enough, he caught Daniel whispering to another coworker. Later, he overheard his own name in hushed tones. It wasn't long before the rumors reached him. "Apparently, you lied on your resume. Someone said you take credit for other people's work." Ethan was furious. None of it was true. So why was Daniel doing this? 3. The hidden insecurity behind betrayal. Jung suggested that people who feel inadequate often attack others' reputations to balance their own inferiority. Daniel hadn't spread rumors out of hate. He had spread them out of fear. Ethan's success threatened him, and instead of working harder, Daniel chose the easy way out, tearing Ethan down to lift himself up. But Ethan refused to let lies define him. He gathered evidence, confronted the situation, and cleared his name. And Daniel? He was left with the one thing he had feared most, his own inadequacy. Fully exposed. 7. No joy in your success. A real friend celebrates your achievements. A secret enemy, however, struggles to hide their irritation. Their smiles feel fake, their enthusiasm forced. Sometimes, they react with, "Oh, that's great. Anyway, I was just thinking." Or worse, "It's not a big deal. I did something similar a while ago." Instead of genuine happiness, they shift the focus away from you. 8. The body always betrays the truth. Words can be deceptive, but body language never lies. If someone secretly resents you, their unconscious leaks out through small, involuntary gestures, a stiffened posture when you share good news, a forced smile that doesn't reach their eyes, an averted gaze when they offer a compliment. Jung taught that our unconscious emotions always surface in physical ways, no matter how hard we try to suppress them. If you sense tension, coldness, or unease in their presence, trust your instincts. Recognizing these signs doesn't mean you should immediately cut someone off, but it does mean you should pay close attention to the way people around you behave. Enemies often come disguised as friends. Your instincts will tell you what your mind refuses to accept. Stay aware, stay vigilant, and most importantly, trust yourself.